you, Kit. I'm really happy that people from my community in Amherst, my co-housing community, are here. And I'm really grateful that we're getting a couple of generations of them here, and Kit and Jane's grandkids, Brock and Audrey, the twins, who you'll hear again, I think, as part of today's service. According to our greeter, Russ, All Souls is a church once described as a place for congregants who are willing to praise and not afraid to blame. That last part sure gives you pause when you're in the pulpit. If this is your first visit here, welcome. In fact, if you'd like to stand and just say your name and where you're from, we would be happy to hear a little bit about who's here with us this morning.
Donna Walters, and I live in Hatfield, but I used to live in Northfield for a long time. Welcome, Donna. Thank you.
I'm Sue Richardson. I live in Lake Pleasant, and you missed a good dance last night.
Happy birthday, Dick.
Matt, just a thought, but do we have anyone on Zoom who looks new to our congregation?
There were quite a few folks joining us this morning from Zoom. We have Carlin and Tom, Dave Rudderman, Iona Truesdale, Jay Lincoln Hurst, Karen Judd, Catherine, Lori Gordon, Mary McDonough, Mary R., Michael Evans, Molly Chambers, Sam Rogers, Sham Kairis, Shell Horowitz, Trudy Ralph, and Vicki Pillard this morning, all joining us.
Well, I am really, really grateful to all of you who are tuning in remotely. It means a lot to me, and it adds to our sense of being together. In the spirit of being a church that enjoys coming together and really has a little tradition that has come to mean a lot to some of us, to just stand and in the four directions greet some of the people who are around you. Find a way to make a little person-to-person connection, a wave, a handshake, hugs are permissible. And now I invite everyone to do what you're already doing and breathe, only breathe intentionally. Breathe in a way that you give gratitude for the most basic gift of all, that your heart can take in oxygen and that you're surrounded by other hearts all breathing in the same space. It's a chance to breathe and be at peace and let our soul dip into the well of silence. Know that here in this place, which is a sanctuary of a church whose name evokes all souls, a sanctuary whose stained glass is a celebration of color and light, whose ceilings have got gargoyles galore, and down here and everywhere you look, there's angels in the architecture, spinning in infinity. And if you like Paul Simon, if I can call you Betty, you can call me Bobby. The one thing we lack is a huge throng of people, depending on what lens we choose to look through. Contrary to the claims of our current commander in grief, crowd size isn't the key measure. Attendance is all about who's present. And your presence isn't based on quantity, it's quality. Look around, and depending on which lens you see it through, this sanctuary is either empty or open, sparse or spacious. A perspective shift captured in a David Wilcox lyric: if it wasn't for the night, so dark and bitter cold this time of year, would the stars ever shine so bright, so beautiful, so clear? On that lyrical note, I invite, if you feel comfortable, for you to close your eyes and to listen to the prelude and let it be a passport to a place of harmonic peace. Thank you, my friend. Kate, welcome back from Mexico, and please, if you don't mind, having the honor of lighting the chalice. Our words this morning are inspired by, and I admit sometimes directly lifted from, a poignant civil rights anthem. This little light divine, please, Spirit, let it shine. This shining spark sublime, beacon of all humankind. This little light of thine, his, hers, yours, and mine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. One more time, all together with Spirit. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Who says there's no gospel in UU services? I have, in a rare case of editing, abridged our covenant, not because I don't think the lines that have been omitted are significant, but because sometimes I think it's hard to take it all in. You know, we put a lot of thought into our church covenant. There's 9 lines. I'm hoping that by paring it down to 5, you'll have more of an opportunity to really live into them. Oh, my apologies. Thank you very much. It's good to have people in the front guiding you. It's a team effort when I speak. So, yes, thank you, Rocky and Chris. Please open up your hymnals to number 360 and stand as you are able and sing, I think, a very apt song at this point in our service. Here we have gathered. So great to have the choir, because it means I get to preach to them. No, I am really happy that they're here, and I am back in order in the house. So you'll see in your order of service, the congregational covenant, the small print that's underlined. I'll start to lead it off, but then I really love to hear all of you say out loud in unison the 5 lines that are listed below. And as you're saying them, see if they speak to you. In this house, we covenant with one another to create a community built on a foundation of love, to stand on the side of love, embracing the liberation of the oppressed and working to end discrimination and unjust privilege, to communicate with kindness and support, to serve with compassion and commitment, to learn and grow together, generously sharing our time, talents, and treasures, to openly share our laughter and our tears, showing reverence for the divine in all that is. Now, when it comes to sharing our time today, that is a gift. Many of you in the choir and outside of the choir bring your own special talents to this gathering. And I hope you've also brought some treasure, because we're going to take up an offertory and we need money to keep the heat on in this building. If you can be able to contribute, we would be really grateful. And remember in the hymn that we sang that as we give, we gain.
Thunder and the lightning gave voice to the night. The little child cried alone in her fright. Hush, little baby, a story I'll tell of a love that has vanquished the powers of justice on the wind, laughter in the house where the mourners have been. The dead shall have music, the blind have new eyes. The standards of death taken down by surprise. Hallelujah. Captives and end to the wars. New streams in the desert, new hope for the poor. The little lame children will dance as they sing and play with the bears and the lions in spring. Baby, let go of your fear. The Lord loves his own and your mother is here. The child fell asleep as the lanterns did burn. The mother sang on till her bridegroom's return. Hallelujah, the great storm is over. Lift up your wings and fly. Hallelujah, the great storm is over. Lift up your wings and fly.
Here's to you, kid. You nailed it. I knew you would. This cup that I'm periodically drinking from was gifted to me by a former partner who picked it out because of the inscription. It says, "Golf isn't everything. It's the only thing." Full disclosure, part of me doesn't want to tell this story. It's painful. It's intensely personal, and I'm pretty sure this isn't the place for group therapy. My prayer is that you'll see a through line between the individual and the universal in a way that makes sharing it a true sermon. Truth has a way of coming to light, but few ex-lovers like to be caught in its glare. So out of respect for their privacy, actual names will not be used to preserve confidentiality and protect me from lawsuits. Since the demise of my 25-year marriage in 2004, every woman I dated I met dancing. But in 2020, when the pandemic closed everything down, I lost my internet dating virginity on a site I dubbed OK COVID. A woman named D-E-E, contacted me and said she could just tell from my profile that I was tall, dark, and handsome. Okay, so I padded my profile. It was clear from hers that Dee excelled in higher ed. She had 3 degrees, 2 more than I could possibly juggle. I wasn't wild about her looks, but for once I was determined to care less about chemistry and more about compatibility. We met halfway in Gardner and fell in love hiking through Leominster State Forest. We were a good fit. Dee loved to cook. Rob lives to eat. No, what could go wrong? Kids, cover your ears because it's a 4-letter word. Golf. Dee detested the sport. Rob never met a club he didn't want to swing. But we both believed in dialogue and had a mutual determination and found a win-win way to cross the golf gulf. Fortunately, Dee had a very generous sense of humor. And anytime I said something remotely funny, she laughed readily. Take that to heart. And when I cracked a clever retort, her response was immediate and uproarious, a Jewish jokester's dream partner. Our first summer, we vacationed in Maine. The next one, we took workshops at Kripalu. The following year, we traveled to a rustic cabin bordering a waterfall that was the epitome of poetry in motion. In May of 2023, to celebrate our 3-year anniversary, we dined at a 5-star Japanese restaurant in Boston. That June, we went to Worcester to see Elvis Costello. And in July, we spent a glorious weekend right here at the Green River Fest, boogieing our butts off to Jean Baptiste. But what Dee loved most was tango. And I loved Dee, so I started taking classes. My learning curve looked like it would be as long as MLK's arc of history. But instead of bending towards justice, it pointed to disaster. Still, Dee was so grateful for my pluck and persistence, she presented me with a beautiful pair of custom-made snakeskin dance shoes, Exhibit A. That fall, while I was gamely taking classes and torturing teachers, Dee slipped away to walk the Camino in Spain, a 6-week pilgrimage through quaint towns and small villages. Out of respect for her solitude, we didn't speak. 2 weeks into her trek, Dee texted that she decided to finish her time in Spain with 5 days in Madrid, followed by 6 in Barcelona, and asked me to join her. I texted I was game and got busy renewing my passport and booking flights. Dee lived a lot closer to the airport, so the plan was that I'd park at her place, I'd pack at her place, pick up the things she wanted me to bring for our vacation, and stash them in my suitcase. When I arrived at the Airbnb in Madrid, it was a rollicking reunion, and we set out to explore the city with mucho gusto. The only thing more estupendo than the portico-lined Plaza Mayor is the Parc Güell and Gaudi's other crowning contribution to Barcelona, the Sagrada Familia Cathedral. I hated to leave. Dee was ready to go home. Since my return flight would get me back to Boston severely jet-lagged, and my car was parked at her place, the plan was for me to spend the night and set off for Greenfield the next morning. Dee's flight arrived at Logan 4 hours after mine. I knew she'd been away a lot longer, and having her house to herself would be a sweet surprise. So I set my alarm for 3 hours, wrote her a sweet note, left her a chocolate heart from Madrid, and set off. When I reached Route 2, my Achilles started killing me. When I last made it home, I discovered I also had come back with such a bad case of dysentery, I couldn't make it to the toilet. I was still cleaning up the mess when I got a terrified call from my daughter, who just totaled her car. I called Dee. She didn't pick up. I left a message on her voicemail. She texted back that she'd gone over the receipts from the Airbnbs and I owed her $508. I figured when she called, she showed some support for my rough reentry. A few hours later, as I was driving to meet my daughter, I recognized a familiar ring. I asked Dee about her reentry and how she was faring. She said, "Great." No mention of my note. After I told her what Jazz and I were going through, Dee told me, "Rob, I know you don't want to hear this now, but I'm clear, and actually I've been clear for quite some time, that I can't continue to be your partner." What? My heart froze. My head spun. It was all I could do to say, "I can't talk to you now," and hang up before I hurt back. It sucks to be dumped under any circumstance, but breaking up with someone over the phone sucks double, and doing so when they're behind the wheel is like a drive-by dumping. I was so hurt, I could barely see the road. I wished there was a windshield wiper for tears. I helped Jazz transfer stuff to her rental like a robot. I drove home and fell into bed feeling demoted, discarded, and depleted. My bruised ego was so ashamed I didn't want anyone to see me. I thought, well, it's inside me. They can't see what's inside me. But the way I felt was like the poster child for Paul Simon's lyric, "Losing love is like a window in your heart. Everybody sees you're blown apart, and everyone feels the wind blow." I wanted to go to Graceland. Instead, my psyche slid into the purgatory of daily second-guessing and nightly speculation. Rumination that were the ruination of sleep, the innocent sleep, sleep that knits up the raveled sleeve of care, sore labor's bath, balm of troubled minds. Aye, that's the rub. I smelled a rat. To do it so abruptly over the phone, it had to be there was another man. Jealousy spun me into an emotional comorbidity of insecurity and inadequacy. Conjecture bred competition, and sapped confidence made me keep asking myself the same question. What does he have that I don't have? A week passed without a word. Hurt led to anger, and anger led to judgments. Anyone who hits someone when they were down was callous. Anyone who breaks up with somebody over the phone is a coward. And anyone who does both while the person is driving on a highway is just plain cruel. I tried to conjure more Shakespeare and screw my courage to the sticking place, but the best my addled brain could do was out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow. A poor player that struts and frets all hours of the night. In the morning, my Macbeth mindset was like a mood machine with 5 settings: agitate, investigate, speculate, ruminate, and recalculate. All day I vacillated from sensitive, new age you acceptance to mega, maga, maniacal meanness. How could she go from adoring me to abandoning me? How can my heart go from loving to loathing? Then it hit me. No wonder my moods are all over the map. I'm dealing with CHAOS. Confused, hurt, angry, outcast, and scared. I prayed these better angels would reappear and she'd give me a call. 11 days later, I got a package with a few of my belongings and a note that said she knew the relationship didn't end the way I wanted, but she didn't see why that would change my sending her the $508. I wanted to sue her for damages. I read the note to 5 of my closest male friends, Charles, Daniel, Phil, Peter, and Bob, and when they each said it was a low blow, I felt vindicated. I read it to a few of my female friends, Felicia and Amy and Nancy, and when they said it was harsh, I felt heard and validated. I went into my counseling appointment sure the therapist would see that Dee had wronged me and I had a right to feel wounded. I told him how my friends all thought I'd gotten a raw deal and deserved an explanation and an apology. He asked me a simple question. Was I really seeking support, or was I just soaking up sympathy? I grimaced and said, I guess I want both. He said asking for support would help me stretch. Asking for sympathy would keep me stuck. Then he asked me if I planned to give Dee the money. I told him no way. That $500 was blood money for all the pain she put me through. He nodded understandingly and said, Dee hurt you badly, but holding on to blood money only keeps you wounded. Then he pointed to a framed quote on his desk by Christian theologian Lewis B. Smedes and asked me to read it aloud. To forgive is to set a person free and find out the prisoner was you. My head saw his point. My heart was still too hurt to act on it. It's hard to take the high road when you're in a low place. But holding on to my hurt was keeping my heart heavy. I needed support, and part of me still wanted sympathy. My pal John Porcino split the difference. He knew Dee's birthday was coming up and suggested I find my own better angels and send her a card. I hesitated, but when I happened upon a special bar of chocolate I'd bought in Barcelona as a birthday gift, Exhibit B, I figured it was a sign. I found a card with a cover of Gaudi's Sagrada Familia, wished her a healthy birthday, and signed off with darkly sweet memories of Spain. Writing it dislodged something in my spirit. Taking the high road takes more time, but there's way less traffic, and the view is a lot more expansive. My psyche started to feel so much more spacious. That's when I realized the slim card could fit a fat check, rounded up to $510. But the real gift came when my Performers Guild helped me realize healing wasn't about holding on to the cash. It was about having closure. A way to face each other and speak openly and to be heard respectfully and kindly. A chance to say thanks for all the gifts the relationship had brought into our lives, to say goodbye and bid each other farewell. So I wrote an impassioned email to Dee. I was mousing over to where you hit send when something made me stop. If I ran it past a friend first, would that be asking for support or asking for sympathy? My lifelong bud Gary showed me none of the latter and told me straight up that the email was too defensive and aggrieved. I wrote a second draft. Gary saw a lot of improvement, but he also saw a lot of self-righteousness. My ego's response was to righteously rail how much she'd wronged me and had to be held accountable. Gary said, "Good luck with that one." And I was back to the drawing board. God knows how many iterations later, I finally sent this. Hola, I hope this finds you in good health, and I remain grateful for all the blessings you brought into my life. It's been 3 months now since you said you couldn't continue to be partners, and the breakup still hurts. But I'm learning to let go. Still, there's some parts of the jigsaw puzzle I can't get to fit. I'm writing because I hope you'll help me put the missing pieces together. To reach closure, it would really help to have a conversation, a dialogue where we both feel heard. She replied, "Hi, Rob. I don't have a need or desire to process this anymore. I have moved on and found all the closure that I need. Moving forward, we should not contact each other." Ouch. My chest recoiled like it had been sucker punched in the heart. I was cut down, torn up, and I didn't know where to turn. The closest thing I had to a compass was a song that's long befriended me with this lyric. If there is a load that you have to bear, that you can't carry, I'm right up the road, and I'll share the load if you just call me.
Call on me, brother, when you understand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow. But if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. It won't be long till I need somebody to lean on.
And if you want to sing
verse.
along, it's in the Teal Handbook 101.
Swallow your pride. If I have things you need to borrow, for no one knows of your needs that you won't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on.
Clap if you want.
I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. If there is a Lord, I suppose that you can't
Right up below. Just
lean on me.
pray. I'll help you carry.
You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Call me when you need a friend. Call me. Call me when you need a friend. Call me. Call me when you need a friend. Call me. Call me when you need a friend. Call me.
I took the song to heart. I called my sister Wendy, and she listened with love. Still reeling from the rebuff, I walked into my men's group, punching my chest. That shrew's not going to silence me. I'm not afraid of that witch. She's not going to call all the shots and step on me with impunity. I'm taking back my power. I'm writing a reply that lays it on the line and lets me have the last word. Each man said it differently, but they all agreed with Danny, who told me I needed to honor Dee's request. Yes, it was a cold shot, but when a woman sets a boundary, a man needs to honor it. Our elder, Len, told me I could live my life like an example or a warning, leave a mark or leave a stain. It was my call. Worship the wound or switch the script. Two choices, one conscience. Carve out a small victory or become a big victim. To a man, they urged me to be in integrity with my values. They helped me face the loss and realize that if I kept playing the victim card, I'd be constantly pressing charges and petitioning my grievances. But dealing with my grief bravely would let me live into the words of Audre Lorde, who, thank God, I have here giving me inspiration. When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid. The more I came to peace with departing, the more my focus shifted from a mindset of hurt and hate and fear to a heart space of help and hope and faith. Healing happens, but not in a straight line. On good days, I look at something we shared and actually smile. On bad days, I fixated on motives and unsolved mysteries. I picked up the snakeskin shoes and eyed the trash. I started to toss them when I had a thought. Don't throw in the shoes. Double down on tango classes. Dancing well is the best revenge. A dozen lessons later, and my fledgling ability to lead a partner had made such solid progress, I'd gone from raw neophyte to really bumbling beginner. 2 months later, I learned Laura Grandi, our teacher from Buenos Aires, got her visa and was getting married to a Bostonian in Natick. The good news is I got an invitation. The bad news is a buddy tipped me off that Dee did also. The time leading up to the wedding was equal parts tango and trepidation. Mine and the ladies I was leading dancing backwards. A week before the big event, I was in a fix. My technique had but slightly advanced, and my equanimity about my ex had significantly declined. I kept picturing everyone all decked out and Dee dancing in another man's arms. It was not a pretty sight. Spooked, I called my wise soul Sufi friend Shams. I was sure when I told him what I was struggling with, he'd help me get to a higher spiritual plane. Instead, he burst out in a booming cackle, a joyous laugh that was like leavening to help my heavy spirit rise. I shared that I was feeling afraid and I didn't want my fear to make me play small. He chuckled merrily and said, "Rob, you can't play small. You're short enough as it is." I grinned into the phone and began to bemoan how Dee muzzled me and stepped on me with impunity, and I wished the wedding was a way to exact some retribution and force her to finally face some repercussions for her transgressions. Shams asked me what exactly I had in mind. I told him nothing dramatic, just something subtle, like see where she put her purse and slip something into it. A pat of butter, a pair of ice cubes, a scorpion. Shams let out another boisterous laugh. Then he asked a direct question. Close your eyes and tell me how you envision encountering her. I told him I was of two minds. My shadow sees me showing up insecure in a way that makes my heart raw meat for the green-eyed monster. My higher self sees me showing my face without shame and choosing a path of peace which affirms the ancient adage that seeking revenge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Instead of grinding an axe, I wanted to be glad for what we had and feel grateful. Shams warmly affirmed that my higher self was a trusted North Star. He closed the call by assuring me that in the wise words of that revered sage, Winnie the Pooh, how fortunate I was to have had something so hard to say goodbye to. The whole way to the wedding, I'm waffling between wanting to see her and wishing she wouldn't show. When I got there, the latter looked to be the case. Relieved, I took out my tango shoes and kneeled down to lace them up. I was starting the left one when from behind me, I heard a familiar voice say, as if nothing had ever happened, "I'd recognize those tango shoes anywhere. I wanted to tell you, should you snake, you use them to step all over me." Instead, swearing a quick Hippocratic oath to do no harm, I told her, "Thank you for gifting them," and intently retied the laces of my right shoe. Dee said, "It's good to see you." I didn't want to look at her, and I couldn't in good conscience echo the thought. So I kept my head down and simply said, "Thank you." She said, "I'm glad we're both in the same tango community." I couldn't sincerely say the same, so I just told her, "Thank you." Dee said, "I'm glad you're here." With my gaze fixed firmly on my feet, I gave the only genuine reply I could. Hint, it's a two-word sentence. Thank you. After my fourth consecutive two-word answer, Dee finally did something I was truly grateful for. She walked away. When I finally stood up, the The only thing tighter than my gut were the laces on my tango shoes. I wished I hadn't kept my back to her and been so curt. But there was no way I could authentically just make small talk like nothing had ever happened. And given the cold way she dissed me, declining to converse was kind of a deserved consequence. I was there alone, I had no +1, and all the rear tables were taken. I wandered aimlessly, wishing I had someone who'd saved me a seat. A woman kindly smiled and asked, "Are you looking to join a table? If so, the seat next to me is free." I reverted to my tried and true 2-word sentence, delivered this time with a decidedly different inflection. I told her my name is Rob. She said she's Jacqueline and was glad to have my company. We started chatting, and I soon saw that Jacqueline was zestful and bright, and oh, did I mention blonde and beautiful? Suddenly, I had a new coping strategy. And the old adage, "It takes two to tango," took on a whole new meaning. Yes. Thankfully, Jacqueline was a willing accomplice. We stood together waiting in line at the buffet table, and after dinner, she invited me to dance. We did 3 straight tangos, passed Dee's table twice, and I only stepped on her toes, Jacqueline's, once. A personal best. Things were looking up, and I was ready to interact with Dee standing up. But how? And when? I waited for just the right moment. And waited. But when the DJ said last song, the tango was up. I knew Dee had tried to make amends. And I didn't want to leave feeling afraid to face her. So I took a swig from a stiff glass of water. And headed towards where she was standing in the middle of the other section of tables. Dee saw me approaching, but didn't move forward or away. We were 10 feet apart when my brain froze and I couldn't think of one word to say. When I was right in front of her, 2 popped into my head. Safe travels. Dee smiled and said, "Safe travels to you, Rob, as well." I smiled, bid her farewell, and walked to the coat room. With each step, it felt like 2 prisoners had been set free. As I put on my jacket, a warm smile covered my cheeks. I didn't focus on being grateful as much as I'd meant, but Dee certainly expressed some, and I sure said a lot of thank yous. She finally experienced a consequence for her actions, and in the end, we met in the middle, looked each other in the eye, and wished each other well on our journeys. It wasn't picture book closure, but it was Dainu, enough. I left feeling a long absent lightness of being. It was as if my heart had come home to itself. I had hope in my spirit, laughter on my lips, and Jacqueline's phone number in my pocket. In closing, all I can say is 2 words. Thank you. And all I can sing is Alleluia. The great storm is over. Lift up your wings and fly. Join me. Alleluia. The great storm is over. Lift up your wings and fly. Hallelujah, the great storm is over. Lift up your wings and fly. according to my order, this is a chance for us to do my favorite ritual in our congregation. And it's a time where we get to express, ideally, very succinctly, and if you aren't being succinct, I'll probably have to kindly but firmly wrest the microphone from you, just a heads up. But really what we're looking for is a simple joy that you'd like to name, or a sorrow that you'd like this congregation to hold. Is there someone who can model that for me?
Hi, I'm Kate. I have two wonderful joys. One was that I had a month in Mexico with two very good friends and saw a lot, had a wonderful time. And the other joy is coming home. Home to snow, home to All Souls, home to a broken hot water heater. It's all a joy to be home.
I'm Sandra, and I just felt the hallelujah in that last song was just such a wonderful ending to your sermon. I think you did a brilliant, brilliant job of transforming a route that many of us have traveled, and the struggle to transform is never easy. So I really bow to your courage to share story today, and it's a blessing for all of us. Thank you.
Hi. I talked about the concept of hygge, which means warm and cozy in Danish. It's sort of like gemütlich in German. And there's a game called hygge. It's a funny spelling. It's, I always have to look at it. It's H-Y-G-G-E. And what I love about this game is that you take a card, and mine has 3 questions. What famous people do people say you look like? No one. Do you think you have nice handwriting? And what do you think most old people regret when they look back on their life? And you can answer any of those questions or none of them and make up something else. And that's what I love about it.
That sounds like my kind of game.
Yeah, right. If you want to take a card,
It's a great idea. Thank you. So I'm Ellen. This is kind of a joy and a sorrow because over Thanksgiving I met my son who lives in Colorado, and the two of us traveled to New York City and met at his friend Alex's house. And Alex is one of the families of 9/11 whose wife died in the tower. And at the time his son was 9. So I had seen them on and off over the years, but just sort of casually. And now I was living in their house for a week. And I knew that Alex drank. But in all honesty, I've never sat across a table before with a person who just drinks himself to passing out every night. And it was a really very confusing experience. And I came back very mixed up. My son also had spent time living there. And so there was this odd mix. It was wonderful to spend time with him. We haven't seen each other for like 3-4 years. And at the same time, he seemed so comfortable with Alex drinking, and it was so confusing. And I've gradually kind of made my peace with it, and we've talked it out a little bit. But I still find myself lost in all of that and what that meant. At the same time, it was so wonderful to see Eric grown, the child that lost his mother at 9. And what a terrific guy he is, and tall and strong and smart and well-educated. So there's this strange mix of joy and sorrow. So, thank you.
Feel for you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Danny, and I really resonate with your message, Rob, of overcoming victimhood. And what I thought was that even those of us who didn't grow up in terrible situations, who grew up in the suburbs, everyone, we all carry a certain trauma, and our job is clearly to transcend victimhood. And especially in these times, I invite us all to
Oh, okay. Is it on, Matt? I think that she inadvertently.
Maybe you can hear me. Oh, yeah, you can. My name's Maria, and let's see, my joy and my sorrow. My joy is being able to take off a bandage that covered half my face, and know that I was going to be okay, but it was swollen and gooey and bruised, and I couldn't help but think of my blessings of being with a partner that is safe and loving, and I am unafraid to be myself with. And then I thought about domestic violence, because my face really looked like I'd gone through a bad beating. And then I thought about Gaza and Israel and all the other wars that we're now watching on the TV. And I felt like crying, but I didn't want to mess up my eye. But I couldn't help it. And I learned that you can cry through the hard times and come out on the other side. So here I am in church with a right side of my face that doesn't look so bad, and a safe partner. So thank you all.
I think with glasses we could come up with a windshield. Cheers. Anyone else back here?
I have to apologize to Rob because hearing aids don't work that well. So I've missed a lot of what you have said. So I want to copy. But I get the gist. I get the gist. And one of the things that has been on my mind is the question of who is us? Who is us? What's a team? Can we build teams that are broader than couples? How do we build that kind of team in this congregation? Who's us? And then we hit Dick. And Dick has expanded the us globally by thinking about what we are going to do about Gaza, and by trying to think about families in Gaza, values families very highly. And could we buy family tents? So that's an us too. And it's expanding. We are expanding globally. And it's so needed because the us that's global is fearful. It's very fearful, as you know, only too well. And but I think that the local us is where we have to start, don't you think? Yeah.
Hi, my name's Cindy. Is it on? Yes. I would like to light candles of gratitude and health for my parents who are in California, and for all the people through the years that let me lean on them in my times of need. And to have a loving partner to walk with me through saying goodbye to my mom and saying hello to my formerly abusive father who I didn't speak to for 30 years. And sometimes it takes 30 years of support to be able to face something that you never thought you'd be able to do. And it's working. And it would appear that I'm becoming friends with my dad.
We can't hear you.
Done a lot of things through my opinion based that makes me unsure what to do.
Can I say aloud what you said? Or would you rather I not? That's okay. We can, people who are interested, they can come and see you afterwards. Yeah. So, do we have anyone on Zoom?
We do have a few folks who shared some things with us, and a lot of praise coming your way, Rob. Well done, my friend, from Michael Evans. Thank you, Rob. That was beautiful and inspiring, from Lori Gordon. And Mary McDonough said, yeah, Rob, glad I tuned in. Thank you for the message and final hallelujah songs, hugs. Catherine, ditto what Sandra said. Thank you for sharing your better and braver angel with us. Carlin and Tom said, once again, Rob, you're an inspiration. Seconding Sandra, we feel blessed by your story of transformation told in such a beautiful and moving way. Bravo, and in all caps, thank you. Thanks, Rob. You've shown how a broken heart can deepen and grow in scope. The gift of pain is tenderness, and that was shared by Shams.
Thank you, Matt. So I think we are at the point where, is there anyone else who needs to share something? Otherwise, I'm just going to trust that whatever else we have that we wish to share, it's here in our hearts, and
I have a question.
we will move to our sort of closing hymn. You'll find the insert in the front of your hymnal, and it's aptly named Prayer to Friends. I couldn't have gotten that sermon without a lot of friends. So The benediction may sound familiar. I hope it does. All credit to the author of Alleluia, the Great Storm is Over, Bob Franke. 4 of my favorite lines. Sweetness in the air and justice on the wind, laughter in the house where the mourners had been, release for the captives, an end to the wars, new streams in the deserts, new hope for the poor. So I think Kit's going to share a postlude.
Yeah. I'm going to abandon our original postlude. And perhaps we could just close with a couple times through the Alleluia. Okay?
Works for me.
So, Alleluia, the great storm is over. Lift up your wings and fly. Alleluia, the great storm is over. Lift up your wings and fly.
Thank you to all who made this happen, and thank you for all of you being here, and for big thanks to all of you on Zoom. Join us for refreshments remotely. No, I don't think you can quite do that, but we can do that. And just before we do adjourn for refreshments, is there anyone who has an outstanding announcement that they need to make